Right. Welcome everybody. So this is it's a half an hour over to yourselves for any queries that you want to raise. We can learn from each other and discuss what you're dealing with in practices. So is there anything that anybody wants to start the ball rolling with? You can either put it in the chat or you can take yourselves off mute. If you want to put your hand up. Is there anything? Nothing in the chat. I can. Yeah, oh, you're great, Amy. Yes. Would you like to come off mute?
Yeah, we've just got, it came up today in our safeguarding meeting actually. We've received a MARAC, and it's named the victim, one of her children and one of her grandchildren. And at the bottom of the form, because the perpetrator is also registered with us, they've named the perpetrator. Our question is, with MARACs, whose records should they go on? I've added it onto the child and the grandchild for safeguarding reasons anyway, because they are at risk at it. But do we add it to the perpetrators?
No, you shouldn't. So that's a really good question. And yeah, no, because there's a danger that, there's a risk that the perpetrator could get to see it. So that's why we can't put it in the perpetrator's records. All you can do is refer to it on the alert. Do you use EMIS or System 1?
EMIS. So we have added a code. We've used the code alleged perpetrator of DA, and then we've added it in the pop-ups as well because he's quite aggressive. So we said about lone working.
Right, good. So even actually, Amy, adding the code to the medical records, imagine he asked for, a copy of the records and somebody didn't notice that code was there. It would come out in the printout. So I'd recommend not keep putting the code in the records. And that's RCGP advice as well. Unless you've got police, sometimes police go out and then they send a separate, not a MARAC, but just like a police, letter to say we were called out. So then you've got proof. So if you can put that in the patient's record, and if the patient ever came back to you and said, why did you write that in my record? You've got a letter in DocMan to say, look, the police said they came out and that, blah, blah, blah. But a MARAC is not allowed to be shown to anybody. So you can only put it as an alert. And even then, remember, the patient could come in and see the alert on their records as they sit down. So again, I wouldn't use alleged perpetrator of domestic abuse. I would use some sort of other sort of thing just in case the patient was seen. I'm not, it's something you'd have to work out with your practice, what's a good thing to put as an alert that everybody would understand. And it's please see records of, that's a good one because or please see additional records, like as in the victim's records, so that it's difficult, and you have to discuss it in a clinical meeting, safeguarding meeting. Send a separate email to all staff to make them aware this is the patient and this is the alert that we've put on the records, and this is what it means, and what we used to do is we used to just put the EMIS number. So in the alert box, we put the EMIS number of the victim, of the records that the MARAC's filed in.
Right.
Do you know
Okay.
what I mean? So somebody looking in the records before the patient comes in can have a read of the MARAC in the victim's records. But yeah, don't code it in the records. The other thing is, because remember, if the patient leaves your practice, and now you're not responsible for the records, the responsibility lies with the next practice. If they don't have good systems in place, and then he or she asks for a copy of their records, and again they don't delete it, the code, then it'll come back to you. So yeah, don't put anything in the records, don't file the MARAC, don't put any code on the records. It's all by alerts only and your other systems of how you inform the whole team and make them aware. Is that okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. Great question. Natalia.
Hello. I have a question about coding looked after children.
Mhm.
Some of the children prior to being looked after and going into foster care or kind of into the system, there would have been like children in need or children on protection plan. We do not have notification specifically that child is no longer child in need and child's no longer on protection plan. Can I assume that once the child is going into foster care, they are automatically no longer child in need and no longer child on protection plan, because I do have some children who are on a looked after children register, as well as on child protection register, as well as child in need register, or not as well as, but or is a child protection or child in need. So can I safely code it, because we do not never have official notification that they're no longer child on protection plan?
That's a really interesting question. While you're saying, I was thinking, because, well, the thing is, children can go into foster care with a view to adoption. So they wouldn't be on a child in need or child protection plan, yeah? But
Yeah.
children can go into foster care because they have to be removed from their parents, because it's, yeah. So those ones are obviously on child protection plans. So now I'll have to double check, but even though they're under the protection of the foster carers, if the parents are on they're not permanently in foster care, some of them the intention is for them to go back to their parents, so they have to stay on the child protection plan while the social worker works with the parents to make them better parents. So yeah, no, so you can have some
It is okay. So
children.
best leave it, or maybe just get in touch with the social worker
I
just
was
to
just thinking, if you
ask.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, if it's been a long time, well, first of all, you can ask the foster carer because they should know.
Yeah.
You can ask them, say, is the child still on a child protection plan? And
Yeah.
secondly, yeah, you should really get a letter for your files to if
Yeah.
they're not on the record anymore, there should be some, if they're not being looked after, sorry,
Yeah.
if they're not on the plan anymore, you should have something to say that the plan has ended. So yeah, I would contact the last name social worker in the records and say, can I have an update, please?
Okay, because we
Yeah,
will get like placement paperwork, so we know
yeah,
who where they are going to, the address, etc.,
yes,
etc.
good, yeah,
But yes, no confirmation, or this child is no longer on child protection plan. So we
exactly,
just,
yeah, yeah,
it's coding issue. I do have another question. Is that okay? It's also about looked after children.
yeah.
We do have some children who do go into care, and the foster carer is outside of our catchment area. So we still have children registered here at the parents' address. However, they do not physically live at the parents' address. They live out of area.
Mm.
If we were to change their address to where they physically live, they will be living on their own because the foster care is not registered with us. So we weren't quite sure what is the best practice. We have asked the foster carer that it would probably be better and safer for child to be registered
At
where
their
they
practice,
live. But those
definitely, yeah,
particular children, they are on interim care order, which
yeah.
means they may potentially go back to mom who lives here and registered with us. So we at a little bit of a crossroads of what to do with these children. There are three siblings that they live
Mm.
out of area. They still go to school in this area,
Oh,
even though
they
they
come
live
back.
about an hour away. So they
Yeah.
haven't changed school and they haven't changed doctors. But if, like I say, if you were to, so basically they're registered at old address, at mom's address, but all the
Mm.
paperwork,
Mm.
everything that ever comes for them comes with the wrong address because they don't
Yeah.
physically live there. So that's we're
Yeah.
not sure what
So
to do.
no, so technically you should have them at the address where they're living.
Where they
And
live
and
in.
if they're out of area, then you shouldn't be responsible for them. And
Yeah.
unless there's some serious medical problem that only you can manage, if you know what I mean. But I doubt there's going to be something like that. So your advice that you gave was correct. The foster
Yeah.
carer
Yeah.
should register them at the same practice that they're
Yeah.
at. And
Okay.
this interim order, it could still be weeks or months. So
Yeah.
I think my advice would be, from a safeguarding perspective, tell the foster care to register with them, even if it's for a week. And because
Yeah.
it's all done electronically anyway, isn't it? And then when
Yeah.
they're back with mum, they can re-register with you.
Yeah.
The notes are still continuous, aren't they? Everything that they've had
Yeah.
done at that GP will still be on there. And it
Okay.
takes a click of a button, doesn't it, to get them registered again. So
Okay.
yeah, they shouldn't really have, because there's other situations where the parents aren't supposed to know where the foster carer lives. So you're saying like all the paperwork and stuff, it's like an appointment or something might come No, I suppose it wouldn't. But no, I know they have to go where the foster carer is.
Yeah.
The foster
Okay.
carer is the responsible adult while they're under foster care, and so they should be registered at the foster carer's practice. But we did have one incident in Birmingham where it got complicated because the foster carer was at the same practice as the parents.
Uh-huh.
So I can't remember the exact details now, but so there was a worry that the parents might bump in to the children or the foster carer if they were if they were still registered at that practice. So in that case, the children were actually registered at a different practice without an adult.
Uh-huh.
But that was special
Okay.
circumstances. That shouldn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
we will,
yeah.
we will not insist, but we will remind the foster carers
Yeah,
as they
don't
should,
take
they
them off
really
until the
should.
foster
Yeah,
carers actually transfer them, accept the
yeah,
deduction, but yeah, try and
yeah,
persuade them and say, look,
yeah.
we can't keep them because they're out of area.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for those two questions. And then we've got Rebecca. Becky.
Hi. Just what you were saying about children being, that wasn't my question, but just what you were saying about children being on a child protection plan when they're in foster care. They should be on an interim care order, which I think is slightly different. Once
But
they
is
go
that
into
only
foster
if
care.
is that only if a view to adoption?
Now, so an interim care order is like a care order when they're removed. And for whatever reason they're removed, they're on an interim care order, and then they would be on like a full care order. So the interim care order is if they're going back to their parents. It's interim care order. If
Yeah,
they,
but
it's
sorry,
like
but how
it's a
does that relate to the child protection plan though?
they're not on a child protection plan. They come off a child protection plan and they go on to an interim care order if they're placed in foster care. I've only just recently learnt this through a case that I've been involved in. So if they're on a child protection plan and then they're removed into care, it's an interim care order which lasts 26 weeks. And in that 26 weeks, obviously parents have got the time to prove that they're going to make changes and make improvements while the children are in foster care. And then if they don't, it goes to a full care order. If they do, obviously they would go back to their parents. But that interim bit,
not on any plan. They wouldn't. They go back to the parents without being on any plan.
They might be on a plan, yeah, but in that 26 weeks, when they are removed into foster care, it's an interim care order. It's a court order. But I've only just recently learnt this because I was involved in a case. Yeah, I've only just learnt this because I was involved in a case.
Right. So I'm aware of the care orders, but I don't understand why so they still got an allocated social worker then, presumably.
Yeah, but they would move over to the children in care team, not like a safeguarding social worker or a child in care social worker.
But a plan is slightly different because lots of children in care are on plans still. Let me find out from the children care team. Just clarify that. I get you from your experience, so thank you for raising that. And
I had a question similar to MARAC's that Amy asked. So I've had a similar issue with a MARAC where they're naming other people that are registered at our surgery. So they're not naming them. They're giving us the NHS numbers on the MARAC. So obviously the victim is named, she's our patient. The perpetrator is also a patient, so they are named. And then the perpetrator's children are identified on the MARAC. So they're identified on the MARAC via an NHS number, not named. And it says, please do not share this information with the perpetrator or the children's mother because of obviously increasing the risk. So that leaves us in a difficulty really, because we're aware, we know the family, we've managed to piece together the jigsaw piece of, you know, who are the children, where are the children, which household are they in, who's the perpetrator, who's the victim. But the fact that they're named on them, they are listed on the MARAC and their NHS numbers on the MARAC. It's a difficult question as to where do you put that information? Do you know what I mean? And where is that documented? Because we're aware that it's a complex situation, but when they're listed on the MARAC, you know, you feel like you've got to document somewhere, like like the previous query that Amy said, when they're listed, obviously, yeah, we're aware, we discuss them, we code them, we actually, but you know, where do you put the MARAC and what do you
So
put?
yeah, so sorry, so the children are registered with you as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're the perpetrator's children, but the mother is a different, is not the victim on the MARAC. Is there
yeah,
two women in this
yeah,
scenario? Yes, I'm just checking I'm following
yeah.
it correctly. Right. And is the mum named on the MARAC? Has she got her NHS number there as well? The mum of the children?
No,
No. So you've got the victim, the perpetrator, and three children.
yeah.
Right. So but so the children are they named as victims from the perpetrator as part of this MARAC?
They're named as the perpetrator's children.
Right, as in so he probably poses a risk to them as well.
Yes.
But yeah, no, the same advice as to Amy. Then everybody that's named, they need to, like you said, they need to be coded. They need to have a copy of that MARAC in their records.
Yeah.
But the perpetrator, can I ask actually, what do you do, Becky? Because I know you do gold standard practice. What do you do with the perpetrator? Do you just put an alert on the perpetrator's records? What do you do with the perpetrator's records?
Well, Amy is from one of our practices.
Oh,
Why
yeah,
she
so
was
she is.
asking that question, yeah. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
we're both confused on it. We both want some
Right,
clarity because we've come
right.
across this in different practices and recently had two MARACs, different practices,
Oh, part of the same
where
PCN, yeah.
it's yeah, we're part of the same PCN where we've got these listed, you know, do you remember we've got these NHS numbers, we've got patients listed. It's good that we're aware and it's good that information is shared, but I think the question is, where does that information go? So
Well, I
it's
suppose,
okay for us. It's okay
yeah,
for us because we can make our decisions.
yeah,
But you know, as you've spoken about the future and you know, when records go to future practices and not,
yeah,
you know, not making that information available so it poses a risk, but then where do you put it?
yeah,
That's
you know,
the difficulty.
yeah, that's true. So, yeah, so obviously for the perpetrator, you're only putting the alert.
Yeah,
But you're right, actually. I just realized because alerts don't get carried to the next practice. So if he moves,
yeah.
then nobody would know that he was a perpetrator or named at MARAC. Oh, I'll have to get back to the MARAC team and ask that. This is great discussions we're having because I need to, we're
We
raising
can send
things.
you like blanked out examples of ours if you want, so you can see where our dilemma lies, because it's been a real dilemma in two of the practices I work in, because it's really good to be aware we know our patients really well and obviously we'll action it accordingly, and it's really good to know the dynamics of everything that's going on
Yeah, of course.
and
Yeah.
put the pieces together. But it's yeah, it helps with our understanding, but in terms of coding and recording, that's
Yeah,
a
yeah, and
challenge.
I don't think the RCGP guidance covers that. Yeah, could you send me that one that you said with the three children
Yeah,
who aren't the children of the victim and the perpetrator? Yeah, send me that one redacted, and I'll
yeah,
discuss it with the MARAC team, and I'll get back to you all by email, and also at the next meeting we have, I'll follow up on the interim care order business, whether they're on a plan or not plan, and then the MARAC, yeah, how to code. Because if we need something clear, then I might need to go back to the RCGP and say, can you update your thing? I'll have a read of it again and see. But I'm pretty sure it says only add an alert to the perpetrator's records. But then, yeah, if they move on, how would anybody ever know that they are a risk?
yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for raising that. But at the moment, then, in the meantime, I would, because they're your patients, I would, yeah, actually, if for the children, and I suppose you don't need because they're not actually listed as victims on the MARAC. So, and then, because then you've got third party, the actual victim is not related to those children. So I suppose I could argue a case, don't scan the MARAC into the children, but just have alerts on their records.
Okay.
Right, but then can you code in the children's records? Well, the MARAC's not saying that they're victims of domestic abuse, are they? Although they will be, but so you can't even put
No,
history of
it's
domestic
saying,
abuse.
yeah, it's saying that he, obviously their parent is a perpetrator.
Yeah, but do they live together in the same house then? Because you know the households. Is the perpetrator
Yeah,
living with the children? He is.
yeah, yeah.
Right, okay. Right, yeah, no, so definitely don't scan the MARAC in the children's records. Put alerts on. And only put an alert on the perpetrator's records as well. But put an EMIS number to link him, to allow a clinician to link him to the victim so that
Okay.
you can read the MARAC if you need to. Yeah, I'm going to get advice then, yeah, about what to do with the children. As in, yeah, going forwards, and how does people know about the children and the perpetrator? Yeah, leave that one with me. Thank you. So I saw somebody's hand come up, I think, briefly at the corner of my eye. Did somebody?
That was mine. I was just gonna make a comment about the children, but I think it's answered. I was just gonna say it's just difficult in terms of knowing how to code them. Do you add the MARAC? Because even though they're not the victims, you just don't know if the father's gonna switch on them in the future as they're like older. But you answered it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But the thing is that what I'm wondering about is why have you not been contacted by Children's Social Services about the children? Because if their father has gone to MARAC, CAS should have been automatically involved. There should have been a referral by the police, well, before the MARAC.
Yeah, no, there has been.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there has been. It's and that's what's helped. The MARAC has actually helped us piece together what on earth has gone on, in terms of like the missing information. But it's the question was like, where does that MARAC go? Do you know what I mean? So
Oh, I see. So
that's the thing is where do we
yeah,
put that
yeah.
information?
Actually, no, that's helpful then. So you have got alerts on the children's records in terms, so you can code history of domestic abuse or heard it, whatever the Children's Social Services have decided the outcome. So there's something safeguarding in that which is valid, which you can code because you've got documentation from CAS to support that, and obviously hide it from online visibility. But yeah, that MARAC does not need to go into the children's records. So, and if they leave your practice, the next practice understands there has been safeguarding issues. Under the code, you can free text, can't you? Heard named in a MARAC.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. So you're valid. You can do that. You can do that. So that made that case easier, actually. Yeah. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, but as you can see, these are really case by case. These need discussion. You can't have like blanket rules. We've got to consider each case, each scenario. And well, thank goodness that they were with you. Or I suppose it might have been easier if they weren't with you. If they weren't with you, you wouldn't have known about the children, and you could have left it to the other practice. Then would have got a MARAC naming the children. But then I presume they wouldn't have been able to give the name of the victim. Yeah, because they can only share information about your own patients. So yeah, but any MARAC queries, yeah, or queries like that, do call the helpline and get advice rather than, sort of doggy paddling in the water and not knowing what to do. Anything else? Oh, sorry, there's something in the chat I can see. Let me see. Sorry, I haven't been reading the chat. Let me just go a bit. So we have we have a 12-year-old child on our safeguarding register who we've been attempting to contact without success. We've sent an email to the email on his record and had a response today from a former foster carer who states the child is no longer with her and not in Birmingham. Who can we confirm this with, as the child is not registered elsewhere and has not been seen in the surgery for some time? Former foster care has also requested we remove him from her address on our records. Yeah, which is a reasonable request. Oh, so that definitely needs chasing up. Yes, so please contact CAS and ask for an update. And you can even explain the situation to them and say, look, I mean, we can't deduct him because he's clearly not registered. Well, the thing is, he could be registered with another general practice. If he gave a slightly different spelling of his name or a different date of birth, then the spine wouldn't match it up and he might be registered again with a new NHS number as a completely different person, which is why you haven't received a deduction. So that is possible. I mean, is he not from England, so to speak? Is he from overseas or with a foreign name, Michelle? If you can put that in. So that would explain it. But yeah, no, definitely contact CAS, speak to the last allocated social worker or get admin from CAS to look through the records and update you so that you can deduct him safely. And obviously you can put an entry in there, spoken to CAS before you deduct. Is that okay? And then managing online access requests when safeguarding alerts or codes are on patient's record, and managing these requests generally with safeguarding in mind. Enhanced review indicated is used when inputting codes currently, and review should take place by GP. Yes, that is still the process. So you know, it doesn't have to be like a person with a lot of mental health needs, or obviously domestic abuse, lots of codes of domestic abuse, and you've decided that the whole record, there's just too much in it to be able to put online. Although NHS Digital encourage us, they still say no, put it online and just hide all the relevant parts, but then you'd have like nothing left of the record. They don't understand. So yes, big alerts on that. Anytime the patient wants information or any request for information from anybody needs to go to a GP, ideally the safeguarding lead, to look through those records and tell you what you can and cannot share. Okay, no problem, Shannon. Let me just scroll down. Can you please confirm there are codes for alleged perpetrator? Yeah. Should we be using these codes and putting the MARAC document of perpetrators' records if the perpetrator is identified on the MARAC by NHS number? Michelle, I think we've agreed that the alleged perpetrator code is just to be used as an alert. But even then, unless you guarantee that all your clinicians have a practice where they go into the patient's records, close the alert, and then they call the patient, which would be good practice, then you can add alleged perpetrator on the alert. But if there's even the slightest chance that the patient can come and sit down and catch the records on screen and see the alert, then obviously you have to be very careful how you word the alert. But we definitely wouldn't code it in the patient's records, and we definitely wouldn't scan the MARAC in the perpetrator's records, even though they are named on it. Scan it in the victim's records and put some sort of alert on the perpetrator's records to link them to the victim, so that the clinician can then knows which records to go into to read the MARAC. I'm not sure how we used to do it. I think our admin, she's not here today, is she? Otherwise I'd asked to know. It just used to say EMIS number such and such, and then we'd know that that was the victim. I'm not sure if she added alleged perpetrator or something like that, because we used EMIS as well. Amy.
So I just thought, rather than using the code like alleged perpetrator of domestic abuse, could we have like a code saying like history of like aggression or violence or something? It's as you said, it's going forward. Like if the perpetrator moved practice, they're not going to know his history. But I mean, if it's quite a violent, aggressive history, I don't know. I'm just a bit concerned that maybe it needs, like I said, for our one, we've added no lone working because he seems like he can be quite aggressive.
Right, so that's a clue to. So is that just an alert, not a code in the?
Yeah, we've just added a pop-up and alert so everyone knows. But I'm just thinking, rather than adding maybe like the domestic abuse, just maybe like a history of violence or something. Do you think that'd be appropriate?
Well, do you know no lone working suggests straight away, oh, this what you know, why is that? So people would be thinking about it. But yeah, let me get back to you. I'm going to speak to MARAC, and I'm also going to speak to other named GPs across England and see what they're doing and suggesting their practices to do. So let me get back to you on that. MARAC is a whole big body sticky thing, isn't it? It's that's the thing of offering patients access to their records. NHS Digital did not listen to the concerns raised by the safeguarding team. There are named GPs who sit on, NHS panels, and they advise and they say, and they said from the outset, this is not going to be safe, this is very dangerous, but they just ignored it and just went ahead anyway. So and that's what we're left with then. We're wading through this mud and trying to do things. But yeah, no, I'll get back to you all on that. And I notice it is 1 o'clock. So thank you for all those points that were raised. And yeah, I'll find out information. I'll email it to you, and then we can carry on the discussion in a couple of months' time as well. I'll set a new date and send it round. All right, thanks. Oh, sorry, is there anything I'm happy to say, let me just double check the chats. So we've done that one. Oh, sorry, no. Should we be putting the MARAC if the purpose? Yeah, so I answered that one, sorry. No, he's not from overseas. Okay, so I'm not sure why he's not registered with another GP. So keep him on. Keep him on. A 23-year-old patient who's still coded as a child protection plan, and when requesting update from CAS, they state no longer recognised on their system as over 18. Should we be checking with adult social services? No, Michelle. Adult social services and children's social services are completely separate systems, so they're not going to be able to help you. I think just by default, the fact that he's become an adult, you can add the code. No longer on a child protection plan, and just free text. We were not given information while he was a child, and we're just removing him as an adult. Because 5 years on, yeah, I'm not sure how you can get that information. I will ask my in the team if CAS are obliged to give us information from 5 years ago. So they said that they no longer recognise it on their system. So it must be stored somewhere. Let me ask I'll ask advice from the team what they suggest. Lots of great questions. Sorry, I can't answer them. All right, thanks everybody. I'll send another date round. Thanks for coming. Take care. I forgot to stop the recording.